paying attention.
I think it's very important, like you said, like from the word go, to give them that.
Absolutely, in the womb. Because that's where the learning starts, and it continues. When they come outside of the womb.
So it's a lot going on right now, Mike.
Yeah,
you like
there
Michael
is.
or Mike? We both the same name. What do you like?
Either one.
Either one.
That's
Okay.
fine.
The hood call me Michael.
Okay.
Who I meet call me Mike.
Okay.
It's funny. My neighborhood I grew up in, it's
Right.
Michael. My full name, Michael Bonner.
Right.
No, what up, Mike? Nope, it's Michael Bonner.
It's looking like that when you say.
That's what everybody. No one has ever called me just Mike Bonner. In the neighborhood, no.
So
Right.
now that there's two here, can I just call you Old Mike? Is that
Old
is that
Mike.
acceptable?
That's fine.
He's calling me old Mike.
Oh,
Yeah, that's pretty evil. That's
I'm
pretty
kidding.
evil.
Come on, man.
So, let's talk about what's going on in our Chaldean community right now, man. With this deportation thing going on with Donald Trump and it's his thing basically.
Well, yeah, it's escalated. It's escalated.
office.
It's escalated under Trump. He ran on the platform of deportation. One of the platforms, deportation, but really also targeting the immigrant community and targeting and really demonizing undocumented immigrants. Okay,
Right.
What he doesn't talk about is how undocumented immigrants are much less likely to commit crimes than U.S. citizens are. So what you have is a fear of the browning of America. This comes out of white supremacy and racism. And you have, it first started with attacking undocumented Mexicans, but then it really spreads to the whole Hispanic community, because how do you determine whether they are undocumented or not? You can't just look at them and determine. Okay, and then also you have that spreading to people who are Puerto Rican.
Right.
Well, Puerto Rico is a territory of the U.S.
Absolutely.
They don't need green cards.
Right.
So they get attacked, they get demonized. It spread to a Muslim ban. Okay, so then you have people in the Sikh community, S-I-K-H,
Muslim.
they're not Muslims. Sikhs are not Muslims. That's another religion.
Okay.
Sikhs are not Muslims. They're Indians,
Right.
and they get mistaken
As
for
Muslims.
Muslims.
Right.
So they get attacked also.
Right.
Okay.
I got a funny story to tell you about that.
So what happens is that you have this escalating, and in the Chaldean community, and Chaldeans are not Muslims.
Right.
They're Catholics. They're
Right.
Christians.
Right.
Yeah. And so what happens is that you have some of them being deported now here in Detroit area, and some of them voted for Donald Trump.
Right.
Now, why you believe that this guy was going
Didn't
to
vote
be,
at all.
well, they didn't vote at all. That's another problem also. But why you believe this guy was going to benefit people of color, I don't know, because there's nothing in his background to state that. If you actually look at his platform, it was anti people of color. Okay, if you actually look at his platform, the studies have come out. Atlantic.com had a big article about this, and he talked about how the driving force for a large percentage of his voters was what they call cultural anxiety.
Yeah.
Cultural anxiety, which is code words for white supremacy. When you actually study, when you actually understand what you're dealing with. Okay, so I tried to tell you. Hashtag we tried to tell you. And the other thing is that if you what Trump did was he tried to blame immigrants and undocumented immigrants for taking jobs away from Americans.
Right.
Okay, but what he didn't talk about is how factory output has doubled since the 1980s, but they're doing it with 1/3 the labor force because they're using automation and technology and software programs, things like this. That's where millions of millions of jobs have gone, and millions of middle class jobs have been eliminated by technology.
Right.
They've been eliminated by technology. Trump is not talking about this.
Right.
He's not addressing that issue. He's demonizing immigrants. Okay, but you have universities now, you have Silicon Valley that's hurting because they're saying a lot of immigrants don't want to come here to do these high-tech jobs. Right. So the other thing is, if you go back and look at the 1840s and 1850s, you had a political party called the American Party. They was ostensibly called the Know Nothing Party.
The Know Nothing Party?
The Know Nothing Party. And they were made up of poor whites who were protesting against immigrants coming to this country, and they said the immigrants were taking their jobs, especially the Irish. But the majority of the jobs weren't being taken by the Irish, or they weren't being taken by Asians coming here, Chinese, things like this. A lot of those jobs were being done by enslaved African people, and they were working for free. Okay, but they use the immigrants as a scapegoat. Exactly, especially the Irish, because you had the Irish potato family going on.
When you're talking, I say scapegoat.
Yeah,
that's the best I can do for you. Your vocabulary is.
No, it's all right.
Scapegoat, and you go behind me and say scapegoat too. I feel smart.
It's all right. It's all right. So this is an example of how history is repeating itself, and then we also see history repeating itself with Trump. And about to be forced to resign from office probably by the end of the year.
That's my money. I
don't think he's going to make it to the end of the year.
You really think that?
My money says it.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone thinks that.
Absolutely.
I don't think you want to go past the year.
Well, he never wanted to be president in the first place. He just wanted to win. He never wanted to govern.
Right.
He never wanted to govern. If you actually study this guy, he thought he was going to lose.
Right.
He was shocked.
He's losing.
He hates losing, but the other thing is he never wanted to govern because this totally changes his life.
Well, I definitely want to hear what Joe has to say on that.
I agree with Mike here. I think he's right
He's
about
Trump.
Trump.
Smarter than you.
Well, he's.
We agree with you, Michael.
Well, look, I
think
that Donald Trump. I agree. I think he ran out of ego. I think he liked the attention.
Right.
I think running for president is a lot more fun than actually being the president.
Right.
And I think that there are guys. Bill Clinton was one of these guys too, who loved to campaign.
Right.
King of the campaigns, Mr. Campaign. Loved running, loved being in that thing.
Arsenio Hall show.
Yeah, loved all that stuff.
Right.
But actually, being president was hard on Bill Clinton, and it's been definitely hard on Donald Trump. The Chaldean situation in Detroit, though, from what I'm reading here, is saying that a lot of these people did have prior convictions for crimes, which is what he ran on. Now, here's the thing about Donald Trump.
Right.
That listen, anyone is free to criticize the president for anything that they want to do.
Absolutely.
You cannot criticize Donald Trump for being saying one thing and doing another. He's doing what he ran on. He ran on.
Yeah.
If you are an undocumented, illegal resident of the United States and you have a crime or you've been convicted of a crime, we are going to deport you. That is what he ran on, and that is what he is doing.
Yeah,
again, is that right or wrong? That's not the issue. But the issue is he doing what he said he was going to do, and he is.
Well, partly.
Yes.
Partly. He's if you actually look at his budget that he presented, he's also harming a lot of the poor whites who voted for him.
Right.
Trying to cut $1.4 trillion in Medicaid over 10 years.
Right.
When you look at $610 billion cut for Medicaid in his budget, and $600 and $800 billion from the Medicaid proposal. When you look at $193 billion cut in SNAP. Okay, so you have a lot of poor whites in West Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, okay, who voted for him. And this budget cuts the programs in Appalachia. They're going to detrimentally harm those in rural America and those in the South who voted for him.
Right.
Okay, so this is something, I mean, if you actually look at this guy, first of all, if you look at the Washington Post, in the first 100 days of his tenure or regime, he told 459 false or misleading statements, and they document them, and they break them down by category. Okay, so on when it comes to now, also you've seen the increase in the percentage of undocumented immigrants who are being rounded up and deported who don't have criminal convictions as well. You've seen an increase in that also. So when you look at the totality of this guy, and you actually do the fact checking on his statements, like he doesn't even understand the unemployment rate. Okay, and one of the most egregious things is I usually watch the White House press secretary daily briefing each day with Sean Spicer or Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And Sean Spicer is doing naval duty. So they're bragging now that the unemployment rate is 4.4%. Right? Well, it was 4.5% when you took the oath of office.
Right.
It peaked at about 11. It peaked at about 10 or 11%. Under President Obama early in his tenure. He got it down to 4.5%. Under Trump, it goes from 4.5% to 4.6, 4.7. Now it's down to 4.4. Now they're claiming that this is the lowest unemployment rate in over 10 years. But you ain't give credit to the black man who did the heavy lifting to get it to that point, so you could beat your chest to talk about this.
100 days couldn't put that much employment.
Well, it's been about 142 days now.
Well,
no, you're still operating under policies under President Obama. The effect from those. Also, you have 15.8 million jobs created under President Obama. So when they talk about that, there are more jobs available now than any time in history. There, YahooNews.com had an article about this. There's 6 million jobs, a little more than 6 million jobs available right now all across the country. This time last year, there was about 5.6 million jobs available. Okay, but that's due to President Obama, who he doesn't even want to give credit to.
None.
Right.
He wants to give all the blame to him, but no credit to President Obama at all. So it's just the hypocrisy. But I don't think he's going to make it to the end of the year.
I got money on that.
Because there's going to be so much pressure on him, and if he when he fired FBI Director James Comey, it took his staff by surprise. So this time he's looking at firing Robert Mueller, special counsel, and he ran it by his staff, and they told him, no, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Okay, and New York Times is a big story about this tonight. So they said for the time being, he's not going to fire him. But if he fires Mueller, it's all over for him.
Okay, well, why is he trying to fire?
Because he wants nobody to. It's like when Kwame Kilpatrick fired Gary Brown. It's similar. Am I wrong or right?
It's similar to that, but this is much worse because what happens is this is an investigation because he knows that Mueller is going to get too close to him and find out his financial ties to Russia. Is going to find out they're going to get deep into the Russian hacking. You just saw the big story from Bloomberg that came out today that Russians actually hacked into 39 voting systems across the country. Okay, that just came out today. Russian cyber hacks on U.S. electoral system far wider than previously. 39. This came out today. Here's the name of the article. Russian cyber hacks on U.S. electoral system far wider than previously known. So he knows that Mueller will get to the bottom of it. So just like he fired Comey, if you watch the Senate hearings today, U.S. Senate Intel Committee of Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions was asked a question. FBI Director James Comey reported to you. So here's why you said he was fired. Did you ever have conversations with him about these issues? How he handled the Hillary Clinton emails, all this stuff? He said no. So the question is, okay, if Comey reported to you, and he was fired for these reasons, and you never had conversations with him about this discontent, low morale in the FBI, things like this, then why was he really fired? Why was he really fired?
There was no low.
He was fired because he was getting too close, because the investigation was accelerating. He wanted more resources. Comey is very sharp.
Comey's a sharp guy.
Comey is very sharp. Well, Comey is a former attorney,
right?
If I remember correctly, former prosecutor.
Right.
Okay, so, and I don't think Trump knew that Comey had contemporaneous notes about their 8 or 9 interactions, their one-on-one conversations.
Right.
Okay, so Comey's testimony buried him.
And didn't Sessions say that that's true, that he did say he made me feel uncomfortable? Didn't he acknowledge that in a hearing?
Oh, no. He acknowledged that Comey came to him the day after. It was February 14th. I don't want to be in the room with him alone. He came in the day after and said he didn't want to be in the room with Trump alone again. Yeah.
And what do you think was
because first of all, FBI director usually is not in the room alone with the president. They don't interact like that. FBI, they do independent investigations. They're nonpartisan. So if you have a situation where you have the FBI director leading an investigation into the current president's presidential campaign, possible ties to Russia, you don't have them in the room alone because the FBI director can be fired by the president. He can be fired by the president.
Right.
You don't have that happen. Former FBI Director James Comey said he only had 2 one-on-one interactions with President Obama in the 3 years he was FBI director, and one of those was to say goodbye to President Obama towards the end of his tenure. He had 2. With Trump, in 4 months or 5 months, he's had 9. 3 in person, 6 on the phone. Okay, it's totally crazy.
Totally inappropriate.
Totally inappropriate. Absolutely. So you're going to find more of this coming out, and the pressure is going to get so high. People have to remember, Richard Nixon resigned from office. Articles of impeachment were drawn up. The first article of impeachment was obstruction of justice. And now you have former prosecutors in Watergate who are doing interviews, and they're saying, look, this stuff is, they said this is worse than Watergate. They said this is worse than Watergate. Right. And they said this, and the other thing was 48 people around Richard Nixon went to prison.
48.
He got a pardon from Gerald Ford, but 48 people around Nixon went to prison. So if they haven't lawyered up at the White House,
G. Gordon Liddy went first.
Yeah, John Ehrlichman, who was his domestic policy advisor, all those people went to prison.
A few years though. And G. Gordon Liddy got out of prison he was like a rock star for a minute.
Yeah, well, he had that happened.
Coley Cole looking like, how does Mike Bonner know about G. Gordon Liddy?
Yeah.
Mike Bonner's a comedian. I'm kind of smart a little bit.
Right.
I guess, you know.
Mike was in high school during Watergate. That's why he knows all about this.
But
he was in 73, right? It was junior year, right?
Yeah,
Mike?
74. Yeah, 74. But even if you watch episodes of Sanford and Son from around that time, they make references to Watergate. They talk about John Ehrlichman, Spiro Agnew, different things like that. They make references to Watergate.
For Watergate?
I think so. I can't remember exactly.
Spiro
but it's 48.
Agnew resigned, right? And that's when Gerald Ford became president.
I think so, because he was his vice president at one point.
He was vice president at one point.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about Trump that a lot of people don't. I watched a documentary recently about his campaign. You know that Trump fired, I believe, 3 or 4 campaign managers in his run to the White House.
Oh yeah, they had those shakeups.
Trump fires guys.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Yeah, well, he's used to being in control.
Look, timing and firing and being president.
Exactly. It's totally different now.
Trump needs to learn how the game is played. He's not playing the game according to the rules, and it's backfiring.
And that's what my man said out of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
This is 10 AM Superstation. We are the voice of Detroit, y'all.
All right, we'll be back in a few. Hey, how's everybody doing?
Great. He's giving us some great knowledge about some current events in the news and other things. There's a big to do about the N-word recently when Bill Maher referred to himself as being an N-word. Is that what happened?
He called himself a house N-word, which is totally ridiculous.
He said he would be. He said he would be one.
Yeah, he would be one.
He implied that.
Well, it was in reference to a question. I don't know if we have that clip, but I've heard the clip, and the question itself was a little, which it was asked by a senator. It was pretty weird.
Senator Ben Sasse, Republican from Nebraska.
It was a weird conversation.
Well, Ben Sasse was talking about being out in the fields, being out in the community. That's what he was talking about, being out in the fields. And Bill Maher said, he would be a house N-word, okay? And he thought that was funny. He said it was a joke or something. I don't know what was funny about it. It wasn't a joke.
You know what? I think it's what I think, and I heard this about some kids over at Grosse Pointe South, how they were using the N-word and how the young people relate to the N-word now. Like even younger than these millennials, the N-word doesn't mean the same. It has the same impactful hate to it, but the way kids use it now is different. I was standing on a corner in New York City and with a friend of mine, doctor friend of mine, her son, Dr. Carolyn King, and her son. These young Indian guys were crossing the street. We were in Manhattan. Right. These young Indian guys were crossing the street, and they kept referring to each other as the N-word in front of me and a younger brother. And the young brother, Gary, tapped the guy and said, "Hey man, you can't say the word like that. You shouldn't be using the N-word like that." And the guy said, "Man, what you mean N-word?" Because they use it as another sense. These are two Indian guys, two Indian kids using the N-word.
Oh, I know.
And young white kids, young black kids, it means something different than it means to us. It's still a very derogatory term.
Now, why is that?
I think it's just over the years. I think it just got desensitized.
No, what's happened is because it's been fused into corporate-controlled hip hop.
Right.
And corporate-controlled hip hop goes all around the world because in the 1980s, when you listen to hip hop in the 1980s, before corporate conglomerates took it over, there was not a lot of that. Now you had NWA come out, you have Ice-T, but this is before corporate conglomerates took over hip hop and sent it in a different direction because you had conscious hip hop that was very powerful, and conscious hip hop went away. African Bambaataa, Poor Righteous Teachers, the X-Clan, Public Enemy, and it went all around the world. And there's very little, Public Enemy. Well, I know Professor Griff from Public Enemy. You have Arrested Development. Before corporate conglomerates took over hip hop, there was very little usage of that. And the hip hop was fun and it was empowering. It was not dehumanizing because it became because it became too powerful. You had a conscious effort to hijack it and send it in another direction. So then you have the real rise of what the media called gangster rap. Okay, and hip hop has never been the same since then. Then in 1996, when Foxy Brown and Lil Kim came out, it totally changed the landscape for female MCs. It has never been the same for female MCs since 1996.
It made Queen Latifah play out. It played out Queen
Latifah. Because what happened was a lot of the female MCs that were already on the scene after Foxy Brown and Lil Kim came out. Then it was either you go this way and you be half naked and you're like them, or you basically get pushed to the side. And a lot of them got pushed to the side because they didn't want to go that way.
MC Light.
And you saw Yo-Yo, and BET, they had a documentary called Women in Hip Hop a few years ago. They had a documentary called Women in Hip Hop, and they talked about how the landscape changed. And they showed like the Brat before 96 and then after 96. Next thing you know, Brat's in a two-piece bathing suit or a two-piece on the beach. You saw Yo-Yo sexier. It totally changed the landscape. It has never been the same since then. So what's happened is because coming out of white supremacy and racism, and if you do not understand white supremacy and racism, what it is and how it works, everything that you think that you understand will totally confuse you, as Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and Nellie Fuller correctly taught us. You have this word infused into corporate hip hop, and it's all throughout the music. You hear it bleeped out on the radio, but we're the only ethnic group of people who you can put negative, pejorative, racial slurs in their music. Other ethnic groups of people don't tolerate that. You will not find other ethnic groups of people in their popular music. They have racial slurs in it of themselves. And these hip hop artists, I don't care how bad they think they are, let them try to put out a song calling Jews racial epithets and see what happens to them.
But that's how we talk with.
Don't make it right, no go.
It's not about it making it right or not, but that's how people talk on their everyday life.
Yeah, but see,
using that terminology. That's how people address each other. That's how they talk.
But see, you have it accelerated because it was infused into corporate hip hop, and then this becomes our everyday conversation. It accelerated and made it acceptable, but it also made it acceptable in many people's minds for other ethnic groups to do that. Okay, in 1995, Michael Jackson had a song called "They Don't Really Care About Us," and in that song, he had a couple lines. He talked about "Jew me, sue me, kike me," things like this, right? The ADL, Anti-Defamation League, came out after him, not because the whole song was full of racial slurs directed towards Jews, but because a couple of lines in the song. They made Sony take that entire CD off the shelf, remove those lines, and put the CD back on the shelf. This is for one song on a CD. You got CDs with the N-word all through it. You got CDs dehumanizing our women, talking about killing us. Other people don't talk about killing.
Albums talking about it.
When you listen, look, if you go to Slacker Radio, you go to Slacker Radio, because when I travel, I listen to Slacker Radio a lot, right? And I listen to today's hits. So they play a lot of white artists, Coldplay and Taylor Swift. A lot of this today's hits is top 40 music. So most of them are white artists. They have some African American artists that cross over, like Drake, Lil Wayne, Nicki Minaj, Flo Rida, things like this, right? You listen to their music, they're not talking about killing each other. They're not dehumanizing one another for the most part. Very, very little drug references. It's not that white people don't use drugs because they're dropping dead from heroin overdoses all across the country. It's not that it's not in their community. It's not that they don't have guns in their community because they have more guns than we do. Most of the gun shops are in the white community. They're not in our community. If you go to the gun shows, most of those people at the gun shows are white people. Mm-hmm. They're not talking about killing each other in their music. So when you look at this, and for the most part, the B word and things like this, you find it very little in their music.
Right.
So the
very little.
So the question is this music is coming from the same record companies. So why is there one standard for our artists and another standard for theirs? The reason why is because they know this music reaches the youth, and they're not going to send those messages to their youth because they know it will destroy them. But they don't care about our youth. That's why they'll let our artists do this. Many of our artists think they're on the come up, but they don't realize they're being set up. So so see, if you want to destroy a nation, you do it through the music, because the music hits the youth first. And the music, when you talk about the music influences a generation. When you talk about the 60s, you reference the music that was in the 60s. You talk about the civil rights movement, so you reference the music. Sam Cooke, you know, A Change Is Gonna Come. James Brown, I'm Black and I'm Proud. Okay, Nina Simone, Young, Gifted, and Black, and Mississippi Goddamn, which was about the murder of Medgar Evers. Okay, when you reference a generation, you reference the music that came out of that generation, because the music influences that generation.
I'm glad I'm a 70s kid.
Well, I don't know, because nowadays, especially when you get into hip-hop, I mean, I feel that has reached everyone now. I feel like white, blacks, all types of cultures, backgrounds, everybody listens to a lot of that music now. I just came from a Gucci Mane concert, and majority of that audience was white.
Yeah, but see, for a lot of white people, that's like going on a safari in Africa. That's a tour. See, when they're done with that, they go back to the suburban life. See, that's an adventure. See, what we have to understand, you have to understand history. First of all, I talked about this on my show Sunday night, and I dealt with in the 13th century in Catholic Spain how negative pejorative terms were put on the Moors, the Africans who go into Europe in 8th century AD and civilize Europe and save Europe. Okay, and Moor was a very noble term, but they're going to change the way people thought about them by putting terms on them like Moristo, which meant little more. Okay, and they use another term, muliar, which means the broken ones. And when Africans are going to be captured and enslaved, they put the word slave on them. They put negro on them, which is black in Portuguese for black or a black thing. They refer to them as being primitive, refer to them as being heathens, unchristian. And what happens is that you relabel people with negative pejorative terms to then justify their mistreatment. Because you would not mistreat, you have to dehumanize them and project them as being subhuman.
It's easier that way.
You do this, Dr. Joy DeGruy talks about this in post-traumatic slave syndrome. She talks about cognitive dissonance, okay? And you have to dehumanize people and to justify the mistreatment, because otherwise you wouldn't mistreat people like that. You wouldn't mistreat people that look like you like that unless you put these negative terms on them, okay?
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Not to cut you off. I went to go see somebody I've talked to a couple of times, not a lot, a few conversations, Dave Chappelle recently. Okay. And he uses the N-word, maybe he did, I went to his show, he might have said the N-word no less than 100 times.
Yeah, that's problematic.
Show.
That's problematic.
And I produce a show at a mainstream comedy club once a month, and I tell my comedians backstage, I don't really want you to use the N-word or you say bitch on stage. Right. Because I have women in my audience who some might be a judge, some might be an attorney. Right. They don't want to be referred to as bitches, and I don't want to make my customer base, it's a diverse audience. Right. To feel uncomfortable because you're on stage using the word N-word, the N-word left and right. Right. Absolutely. So who am I to say Dave is wrong? Dave's a millionaire. How are these guys? I mean, go ahead.
Well, no. What's in your bank account does not always coincide to your level of consciousness. Absolutely. So just because you have a lot of money and just because you made your money using the N-word does not mean it's correct. See, Richard Pryor made a lot of money using the N-word, but then when he went to Africa, he said after about 2 or 3 weeks there, he looked around and he said he heard a voice that say, "Look around you, do you see any N-words?" And he said no, and he realized that was a word put on us to dehumanize us, and he said he was never going to use that word again. Okay, so it's a level of consciousness, when I go to it comes from a lack of understanding of our history. Other people don't have their racial slurs like that for the most part in their music, in their comedy shows, things like that, because they understand what.
I've heard
it's very rare.
Friends from other ethnic groups use a slur about their own.
Yeah, but it's rare. It's not like in our music. It's not like in our comedy shows. Our comedy shows is like they use the N-word like the word "the" some of them. Okay, it's not the same thing. And the reason why is because other people understand their history and they understand what happened when they were dehumanized and when negative terms were put on them in the past. Other people understand their history. Most of us don't. Okay, so we think this is something acceptable, and it's not. You know, your history and culture gives you your VIPs, your values, your interests, and your principles. Your values, your interests, and your principles. So we have to ask the question: where are these values, interests, and principles coming from?
Well, let me ask you a question, and I'm assuming that you don't use that word.
No, I don't.
Did you ever use that word at some point?
At one point, because of some of my frat brothers I was hanging around. Before that, I didn't. And then because of them, you know, hanging around them, it's something you pick up.
Yeah.
It's just like if you have a coworker that has a phrase, you know, being around them, you just start picking that up. Okay, right. It's the same thing. But then, you know, when I really became more conscious, you know, I stopped doing that. Yeah, but what happens is it's infused in the music. So just like any slang term, you pick it up because it's in the music, and people think it's permissible. See, they don't think it's permissible to call Jews racial slurs. They don't think it's permissible. Why? Because Jews will retaliate against you for that because they have standards. We lack standards to retaliate against that.
I think the retaliation should take place against ourselves.
It should take place. It should take place checking our artists, but also checking the record companies that allow them to do it. Because the same record companies that have African American artists have white artists. They don't have white artists having songs with racial slurs in them. Why? Because they respect the people that are being talked about. They don't respect us. This is why they let those artists do it. 50 Cent, Diddy, Lil Wayne, none of them will put out songs with racial slurs about Jews. Because they know that'll probably be the end of their career, or there'll be some huge retaliation against them.
You know what? I get what you're saying, but at the same time, another part of me feels like it's kind of blown out of proportion to an extent.
Why is it? What is blown out of proportion?
Well, because music is used for a lot of artists, when they're artists, whatever reason why they have their stories or why they get into music or do what they do, it's about them expressing themselves. You know, so like I said, a lot of the times this is just used in your everyday vocab. You know,
why don't white artists have songs with racial slurs in them?
I mean, but if you, just like what you just said, if I think about how I am when I'm just even around my girlfriends or friends, and sometimes we use the B word loosely, and it could just be jokingly, and sometimes people can take it offensive. But in their everyday life, if this is how they refer to each other as a friend, or even negatively, or when you're talking about someone negative, or whatever the case may be, that's just what is in our culture. So, we talk like that every day in general.
Well, some of us, not all of us.
I didn't say all of us.
You said we.
Well,
so
that's a whole nother conversation.
So let me ask you a question. All the white artists have popular music. You listen to the top 40 station. So you telling me none of those white artists use racial slurs in their everyday conversation? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I didn't say that they didn't, but I'm saying that the particular word that we're talking about right now. Mm-hmm. A majority of people just use that in their everyday language when they're talking amongst their family and their friends.
Okay,
what
I'm saying is, let's take a different course. Let's look at this a different way.
Okay.
Why is it that you can make songs about killing black people, but you can't make songs about killing dogs? Why is that? You can make songs about killing black people. You cannot make songs about killing animals. You cannot make songs about killing dogs. There was a song 20 years ago, Beat That Bee with a Bat. You can make a song called Beat That Cat with a Bat. Why? Because PETA will come after you. Right. See, people have standards, except when it comes to us. Okay. If you actually study this, and I've been studying media for 25 years, we're the only people who can be dehumanized and disrespected in the music.
Let me ask you this then, Michael. Back to Bill Maher.
Yeah.
Because it is used, and because you are against its usage amongst black artists, hip-hop, comedians, Dave Chappelle, people like that, does that give Bill Maher more right to use it? Should he also be banned to use it? And also, is it unfair that if you are a white comedian, a white rapper, whoever, that the N-word becomes a landmine, that it is just a trap for you to fall into? You say the N-word, you're going to get fired from the job. You're going to lose your gigs. You're going to do whatever. You're going to be ostracized in the community. Is that fair? Is that unfair? Does that become unfair?
What would happen if they use a racial slur for Jews? What would
I'm
happen?
sure that would happen.
What
yeah.
would happen? Now, why would that happen?
Well, because I think we all agree that the slurs for Jews are wrong. Nobody uses them. The slurs for blacks can be used by blacks against other blacks, but can't be used by whites under any circumstances. Even when Bill Maher...
Why is that? Why is that?
Well, because apparently some people feel that it's acceptable. And Bill Maher feels that it's acceptable. Bill Maher was referring to himself in that joke.
That's true. That's true.
You can make that argument in his defense. I'm not defending him,
he was referring to himself.
Yes.
He apologized a number of times.
Yes.
He was checked by Dr.
Right.
Michael Eric Dyson. He was checked by Simone Sanders. He was checked by
Right.
Ice Cube. Okay. First of all, Bill Maher shouldn't ever use that term, number one. He was on live TV. Okay, and Ice Cube talked about how you have some guys who date black women and think they get a pass.
Right.
They get
Yeah,
too
Bill Maher.
familiar.
Bill Maher.
They
Bill
get
Maher's
too
one of those
familiar.
guys.
They
Yeah,
think they can do this.
You get that clip that Bill Maher clip real quick with Ice Cube. It's not.
I also have
Why you
the
gotta wake
transcript.
Sierra up, man? You're sleeping good over there.
I also had a transcript of what he said.
Right.
Is it right?
Yeah, and it was wrong, and I apologize. And you know, more than that I can't do. I accept your apology, but I still think we need to get to the root of the psyche, because I think it's a lot of guys out there who cross the line because they a little too familiar, or they think they too familiar, or it's guys that, you know, might have a black girlfriend or two that makes Kool-Aid every now and then. They think they can cross the line, and they can't. You know, it's a word that has been used against us. It's like a knife, man. And you can use it as a weapon, or you can use it as a tool. It's been used as a weapon against us by white people. And we're not going to let that happen again by nobody, because it's not cool. Now, I know you heard it's in the lexicon, everybody talking, but that's our word now. That's our word now, and you can't have it back. I know they're trying to get it back. This guy, and I'm not talking about you, Bill. I'm not talking about you, Bill, but I'm talking about guys who cross the line every day because they got some black homies, they got some friends, they think it's cool, and it's not cool, because when I hear my homies say it, it don't feel like them.
Hold on 1 second.
When I hear a white person say it, it feel like that knife stabbing me, even if they don't mean it. So, you know, I like your show, and it's a great show. And I just don't know sometimes, is this a political show, or is it a show about jokes? And sometimes the jokes, I understand the format, and, you know, you guys say it's a comedian show, but this, to me, is a political show. And I think you just have to not step on some of the political messages that you're saying with a joke, because some things just ain't funny, you know what I mean? This is real right here that we're going through. And I'm not trying to get on your case, Bill. I'm telling you, I like your show, I like you. But I think this is a teachable moment, not just to you, but to the people that's watching right now. You know what I'm saying? Dude, I'm not. But I think the people watching right now are saying that point has been made. Not by me. Okay. All right, man. But you made it. I made it. I'm done. And we can laugh now. We can tell jokes.
I like that.
I'm glad
He handled that very
Look,
nicely.
But some of the language, though, you could say that, you know, why does Ice Cube define the line? He's talked about that in that sentence there. And I think Ice Cube made a lot of sense there. But he did say, well, there's a line, and you're not going to be able to cross over that line, and we've defined this and that. Does he deserve to define that line, or is it...
But wait, and Joe, to add to that, he said exactly the point that I was making to a degree. When he hear his homie say it, is, you know, it's a little bit more comfortable, because that's how they kick it, that's how they talk. So when these artists is placing it in their music, I get what you're saying too. But a lot of the times, that's just how they kick it. That's how they talk. That's their everyday life.
And the reason why is because it's been infused in the music, and people think it's acceptable.
Right.
Yeah.
People think it's acceptable.
It's not.
Yeah, and it's not.
No,
not.
people don't think it's acceptable. It's total ignorance. Just like he knew good and darn well. Like you said, you made a point earlier. When you are at work or in a corporate setting, you're not going to say anything offensive or any type of, racial slurs towards any background for that matter. So it's not that people think it's acceptable.
No, you're talking about an everyday conversation.
Yeah, that's everyday conversation.
Ice Cube didn't say it wasn't acceptable for us to use that word with the homies. He didn't say that.
He said when my homies say it to me, it's acceptable. He said that.
That's what I just said.
Okay, so that's the same thing when I'm saying when people are expressing it in their music, they're artists. So
Yeah,
they're
But that's going to the world. That's
Yeah,
going
yeah.
that's to the world.
And the question I would ask is why do you think a dehumanizing term used with your homies is acceptable?
Well, again, to me, that's what I mean by when I said I think people blow things out of proportion sometimes.
No.
Listen, all I'm saying is what may be offensive to you may not be offensive to the next person.
Who was offended by Bill? I mean, I'm not going to.
Now you
Who
can't-
was offended amongst the three of you? Who was personally offended by what Bill Maher said?
Oh, I was offended by it.
Okay, I agree that it was.
I was
wrong
offended,
for
but because also what he's doing
Yeah.
is making light of slavery. If
Okay,
you actually
no,
go
I
back
agree.
and listen to
Sure,
it,
yeah.
he's also making light of
Right.
slavery. That's not funny.
No, but
see, if he said,
Yeah.
I would be in the gas chambers and made a joke out
Yeah,
of it,
right.
dude, his show would be off the air.
Right.
His show would be off the air.
I've
See
seen them all.
other people. Well, Arsenio was
Zuricon.
well. He was already about to go off the air anyway.
Right.
It was already decided he was going to go off the air anyway. See, other people have standards. When people understand their history and culture,
Right.
and they understand what their people have been through, they have standards. This is why we're the only people who can be dehumanized in music. Other people don't allow that to happen. Other people don't put out music for the most part, dehumanizing themselves, calling themselves racial epithets. They don't do that.
afford some freedom to the arts, though? And comedy is an art, and music is an art.
Exactly.
Should they not have more freedom than the politicians? Than the
It should be
pundits?
spread. It should be spread fair. It should be fairly.
That's what I feel.
If I say nigga on my record, I should be able to say kite on my record.
Yeah.
Well,
If I say nigga, I should be able to say
Because
Jew. If I should
Sure.
be able to say a negative reference about a Jew and make it endearment.
And see, the question we should ask ourselves is, why is it that we're the only people who can be dehumanized in the music? The record companies have people of other ethnic groups with that record company.
It's just-
They do. They have different standards because they respect, because see, they understand that white music is hitting white youth, and they respect white youth. They don't respect our
So
youth.
it's black music is hitting white youth.
Yeah, but see, the difference
Exactly.
is
That's what I said
the
earlier.
difference is when white people do this, when white people listen to hip hop.
But it's okay. The niggas call each other nigga. I'm cool with it.
When white people listen to hip hop,
I get you.
it's like going on a safari. This is why you have on white college campuses, they'll have the Halloween parties, and they'll dress up in blackface, things like
Right.
this. See, if you understand history, you understand that the dehumanization of African people in this country has always been entertainment. If you go back to the origin of the minstrel shows, minstrel shows started in 1828, 1829 with Thomas Daddy Rice, or Thomas Dartmouth Rice, who creates this Jim Crow character. And he puts on tattered, torn clothing. He adopts a southern dialect. He imitates black people. He puts on
He was
blackface.
hungry.
He puts on blackface. This becomes a huge hit. And then you have other white men doing this, and you have the minstrel shows, which at one point was one of the
Huge.
top forms of entertainment in this country. Then the minstrel shows moved to radio. You have Amos and Andy.
Right.
Amos and Andy was created in the 1920s by Freeman Garrison and Charles Correll, two white men who adopted a southern dialect, lampooned, ridiculed African Americans, sometimes performed in blackface. This was the most popular radio show in the country. Amos and Andy started out as a 15-minute show, moves to a 30-minute show. So when you study this, you look at The Birth of a Nation, 1915, debuts February 8th, 1915, 3-hour movie. This is a international bestseller movie. It's shown at the White House for President Woodrow Wilson. All the dehumanized, all the negative pejorative terms, racial slurs for African Americans are in the movie.
Right.
The hero of the movie is the Ku Klux Klan,
Right.
who at the end rise up to put down a rebellion of former Negro Union soldiers, because it takes place prior to the Civil War, during slavery, during the Civil War, and Reconstruction. It's based upon a book called The Klansman by Thomas Dixon, a novel called The Klansman. When you study this, the dehumanization of African people has always been entertainment in this country.
Right.
So people understand, other people understand what happens when you put these negative labels on people, how you reclassify people. It changes the way people perceives them, and then it justifies their own, it justifies the mistreatment of it and their dehumanization. We don't understand it because we don't understand our history. Your history and culture gives you your VIPs, your values, your interests, and your principles. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself.
But I played a club. I gotta say this real quick. I played a club in Florida one time, and the club owner addressed some comedians about saying the F-bomb on stage.
Mm-hmm.
I said, we can't say you don't want to say the F-bomb. We can say nigga on stage all day.
Right, because he don't respect
Come
you
on,
all.
man.
He
What's
doesn't
up with
respect
that?
you.
I said that. He looked at me like I was crazy.
He does not respect you.
It was really like it was really to me. I was like, it's the same thing. If I'm getting ridiculed for saying the F-bomb, but I can say nigga on stage.
Yeah,
But
he,
because
he doesn't respect you.
But
That's
because
why.
he
Why?
also know that that's also used as
No, tacit because see,
being cool with somebody too.
Hey, this is 9:10 AM Superstation, the voice of Detroit. Be right back.
I get a lot of what you're saying. I do
all right, guys,
get it.
we'll be back in a few
But-
minutes. All right.
I'm
Everybody.
sorry.
Got a girl who drinks Henny.
Oh yeah.
Her name is P.
Mm-hmm.
My girl Coley Cole in the building right now.
Hello.
Detroit's #1 cutie pie with her wonderfully colored dress on. I like that colored dress with all flowers and the colors. Beautiful.
Thank you, Mike.
And one of the guys I love listening to and hearing speak, very knowledgeable brother, Michael Imhotep. Y'all make a little noise for him.
Hey,
Now,
how's
let
it
me ask you a
going?
question. You
Yeah.
said
Go
that
ahead.
you said that Ice Cube spoke the truth, but not all the way. Who was lacking in this
Partly
conversation?
correct.
Partly correct.
Well,
Okay.
when he talked about basically, he was saying it's acceptable when we use it amongst ourselves. That's not, dude. That's you have to study the history behind it, man. That's not cool. You know, and see what happens
Run it
is,
back just a little bit.
I'm sorry, yeah, you have to understand the history behind it. That's not cool. When he said basically it's acceptable for us to use it among ourselves, and what people have to understand is that it was put into hip hop for a reason, and then sent all around the world, and you see a real proliferation in it when corporations take over hip hop. You saw it a little bit in hip hop before then, but it wasn't anything like it is now. Okay, so you know that comes from that. You know what you read, see, and hear affects the way you think, feel, act, and behave. So what's within the circumference of your awareness is based upon the information you take in. So that comes from a lack of consciousness. Okay, because you know when you put racial epithets like that in your music, and people buy your music, they listen to it, they buy your concert tickets, things like this, they think it's acceptable to use that type of language, okay? And he said we're taking it back. You ain't taking it back. Tell that to LeBron James. They spray painted N-word out front of his home.
When?
This was
Okay,
about
they
3
just
weeks ago.
happened.
Yeah.
About 3 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah, they ain't taking it back. Tell that to Donald Trump supporters. They ain't no. See,
My
see,
biggest problem is-
that's an illusion right there. That's an illusion right there. Tell that to Donald Trump supporters.
Wow. I wonder who put that in front of my man's house.
I don't know if they caught the person.
cameras in front of his house.
I don't know if they caught the person yet.
You know his cameras all in front of LeBron's house. It's a camera.
This was outside the gate.
his gate.
Yeah, this was outside the gate.
It's probably a camera out there too.
Yeah, so we really need to study our history, man. I encourage people to go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. The video I did, Sunday show here in the studio, is on our YouTube channel. And then also you can watch the video of Dr. Jose Pimenta Bay. He's one of the-
AfricanHistory.com.
African History Network, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can watch the video of Dr. Jose Pimenta Bay, The Decline of Moorish Power in Spain. The Decline of Moorish Power in Spain, because I played an excerpt of that on my show also. Just click on the YouTube banner right on the homepage of our website. Takes you to our YouTube channel. We have over 600 video clips there.
Okay. Now listen, Daddy's Day is coming up. Father's Day is coming up.
Yes.
You know about the history of Father's Day. You came in and broke it down for Mother's Day.
Sure.
What's up with this Daddy's Day thing?
Okay, well, Father's Day becomes a national holiday in 1972. It was actually signed into law by President Richard Nixon, okay, before he resigned in 74, yeah. So Father's Day is, you had an effort to create a equivalent for fathers like Mother's Day. So we know Mother's Day becomes a national holiday in 1914, signed into law by President Woodrow Wilson. And you had Anna Jarvis, who was the daughter of Anna Reeves Jarvis, who goes on a campaign to have a national holiday for mothers. So with Father's Day, when you look at the National Retail Federation, they estimate that $15.5 billion will be spent on America's over 72 million fathers this coming Sunday. We know Father's Day is the third Sunday in June, okay? When we look at the origins of Father's Day, it didn't take on nearly as fast as Mother's Day did. Okay, for a number of reasons. Okay, for a number of reasons. Okay, so
the Rolling Stone.
Right. But if we look at the origins of it, we see it going back to 1908. We see in 1908, July 5th, 1908, in West Virginia, a church in West Virginia is going to sponsor the nation's first event that explicitly honored fathers. And this was in honor of 362 men who were killed in an explosion in a coal mine the year before. Okay, it was December 1907. It was a Fairmont coal company. There was an explosion, so there was a celebration of these men, but this was not a annual holiday. Okay, so then in 1909, you're going to have a woman who's really credited with starting Father's Day. Her name was Sonora Smart Dodd, D-O-D-D, Sonora Smart Dodd. And in Spokane, Washington, she is going to go on a campaign to get the equivalent national celebration for fathers. So she was the daughter of a man who was a widow. Okay, she was raised, she was one of 6 children. And she goes to local churches, the YMCA. She goes to different businesses, government officials to drum up support for this holiday. And then in June 19th, 1910, you're going to have, in the state of Washington, you're going to have the nation's first statewide Father's Day, okay? And then it's going to spread from there. We see in 1924, President Calvin Coolidge urges state governments to observe Father's Day. And it's going to culminate in 1972 with President Richard Nixon signing Father's Day into law. And it's the third Sunday in June. All right, so you're going to have a lot of people who were resistant to Father's Day, and some of them were men. You have one historian who said that they scoffed at the holiday's sentimental attempts to domesticate manliness with flowers and gift giving, or they derided the proliferation of such holidays as a commercial gimmick to sell more products, often paid for by the father himself. Okay, so you have this resistance to it in the 1920s and 30s. We know because of the Great Depression, you had there was an effort to combine Father's Day and Mother's Day into Parents' Day. And then you're going to have a lot of
that didn't work.
Yeah, that didn't work.
That
didn't work. But you had a lot of store owners who were against this because they wanted to use Father's Day as another opportunity to market to people as well, especially during the Great Depression. Okay, so during World War II, we see that advertisers began to argue that celebrating Father's Day was a way to honor American troops and support the war effort. So you're going to see these different changes throughout the years. But it became an official holiday in 1972. And yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask, what constitutes to you a good father?
What constitutes a good father? A father who loves his children, a father who's responsible, who takes care of his children, teaches his children, who's understanding. I mean, those are characteristics of a good father.
Now, can a father be judged based on the money that he gives his kid? Could that eliminate him from being a good father?
What do you mean?
I mean, like say a guy is working hard to pay his bills, gets behind his child support. Can he still be a good dad?
Oh, absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
think it's more to being a good father than
just
than
money.
financial support.
Absolutely.
I didn't grow up with a lot of money, and my dad, he was okay, but it wasn't about money at the end of the day.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
because I think a lot of times, even now, with our justice system, it hammers cats for child support. The system is really, really messed up.
Right.
It's some great dads out here who owe some money.
Right.
But people look at you and want to demonize you if you owe any money.
Right. They're stigmatized.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that too comes. Well, I have my father in my life. I grew up with both my parents in the household, and I'm not bragging. I'm just being honest, saying that I never experienced having my father not around, and I think I've grown to appreciate my father even more now the older I've gotten, because I just respect him on a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I can relate. We can talk about certain things, and you just respect him. But at the same time, I personally don't believe in child support, I don't have any kids, so I know some people might look at me and want to kill me when I say things like that. But I do feel that a lot of women do that maliciously sometimes when it's fight, but not all the time. But sometimes it be situations when the woman is just scorned or feeling a particular way. And no, I don't think that defines how well, because you can not be around and provide all the financials and not have that connection with your child and not even know your child, or your child not even know you, and you can have all the money in the world and give them all the money in the world. That doesn't mean that makes you a good father.
I think a lot of times now with women who didn't have a dad growing up, they don't understand the significance of a father in a kid's life, and don't know how to celebrate the father on Father's Day, because they don't have a clue about what a dad is.
But it should Father's Day, I guess, maybe this is going back to the root of the question, is Father's Day just something that was invented to be commercialism? Is it just buy your dad a tie day? Or is it like, let's really honor this person for what he's done for his family, for his children, and for his the mother of his children? 'Cause I think we can all agree that that's good, right? There's no one here that's against that.
Right.
But are we against, time to get dad a lawnmower? Home Depot's knocking 25% off this weekend.
Right.
This Father's Day sale.
It wasn't created to be commercialized. It became commercialized, but it wasn't created to be commercialized. With Christmas, even in the late 1800s, people in the U.S. were saying that Christmas was becoming too commercialized, even in the late 1800s. So what happens is that because fathers are not looked at as being as sentimental as mothers, you have mothers that carry the child for 9 months, breastfeed the baby, things like that. This is a different relationship, oftentimes there between the mother and the child. So Mother's Day, it was estimated $23.6 billion would be spent on Mother's Day this year, compared to $15.5 billion on Father's Day. Now, in the past 14 years that this study's been done by the National Retail Federation, this is a record. $15.5 billion is a record. This is the most spent in the past 15 years. They estimate 15 years. Yeah, so.
You don't get breakfast in bed at least? You don't get none of that?
I'm going to see my kids when I get off work.
People can check out history.com. History.com, they have a good article on the history of Father's Day, and then they can also go to NRF.com, which is the National Retail Federation. They have their study each year of the various holidays and how much will be spent. They give a breakdown, things like this.
That's Father's Day.
I got to get something for my dad. I'm going to see my dad on Sunday.
What are you going to get your
I
dad?
don't even know. He doesn't want anything. That's the thing about my dad. You know, we can't buy my dad. Give him a card. He's happy.
A card, he's cool.
Yeah, I used to buy. You know what I used to buy my dad for every Christmas holiday?
High karate.
I used to buy him a carton of cigarettes.
He
Back in the day when he would smoke, but he don't smoke anymore.
that's
He's
good.
72.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
good.
he don't smoke. But that was what we used to buy him because you couldn't buy him anything.
Yeah. I just, I think about dads. I was on my old block today, my old street, and I looked at some of the houses that are like, it's really like, some of the homes are still well maintained and some are just going down.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched these men, when I was a kid in the early 70s, go to these plants and work their butts off. And these homes now that were such beautiful homes in the early 70s are going to nothing now.
Yeah.
But these guys, these guys who owned these homes in the early 70s and early 80s when I was a kid growing up in my neighborhood were my dad. And all those guys were the fathers of the hood. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean? That village, the village was strong. We had a very strong village when I was a kid. It's gone now. These homes are like, I was looking at some houses on Old Street I wouldn't mind buying now. And just putting some money into, just bring them back. Because these guys, I look at this guy, Mr. Bryan, this house he had. And Mr. Bryan was a guy who would come out and teach you how to throw the football and talk to you and tell you how to maintain the lawn. And now his house that he took care of like impeccably well,
Right.
is the garage door is missing, the awning is falling down. I mean, what happened? What happened to the community? These dads who work their butts off in these plants, Ford Motor Company and Chrysler and all these places to buy these, to make a black middle class in Detroit. Mm-hmm. What they worked for so hard is nothing now.
I think it's the people. Just like sometimes when I watch people that it's a trash can right there. You just throwing the trash on it, throwing it out your car, throwing it on the ground.
I think
people
too
just
in
don't
Detroit,
be caring.
some of these folks who are these renters, who own these homes, who are renting homes, should sell them. If you're not going to do anything to be a landlord and collect rent, you're not going to put any paint on the house, any paint on the garage, you should sell the house to someone who's going to take care of it. Because you're bringing a whole neighborhood down.
Right.
The whole neighborhood is going out because all you want to do is on the first of the month collect your rent, but you're not putting any money into the house anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the landscape of Detroit changed drastically because Detroit, the Metro Detroit area, used to have the largest number of African American homeowners in the country, and that was because of the auto industry. So you have a downturn in the auto industry, downsizing in the auto industry. You have auto plants relocating to Mexico, Canada, relocating to suburbs. You have wiping out of a lot of African American owned businesses because of the U.S. Interstate Highway Acts of 1952 and 56. They drive expressways throughout the African American community. We saw Black Bottom and Paradise Valley. You had 350 businesses there wiped out, but you're going to see this take place across the country. You're going to see drugs put into the community, which help destroy families. You have the war on drugs declared by Ronald Reagan, by Richard Nixon, June 17, 1971, and it's going to escalate under Ronald Reagan in '82. You have the crime bill in '94. But the crime bill, most of those people that went to prison under 2 terms of Bill Clinton, they went under state law, not federal law. So you're going to have these contributing factors that help to destroy the fabric of our communities, okay? And then also in the 1970s, you can't forget the Vietnam War, because a lot of African American men go to Vietnam, don't come back, or come back and their brain, and they're never the same. Their brains are gone. They're never the same.
Go to this caller real quick.
Sure.
Chef Don, what's happening?
Man, I listen to your show every night. I'm putting it out there. I'm standing for Mike Bonner for governor.
Oh, God. Please, no.
Yeah.
Mike Bonner for governor.
Maybe city council when I'm 60. Maybe something like that, but not. That's as far as I want to go.
You're touching on something that I'm just so passionate about. You know, we have this greatness in our city that we are kind of missing it a little bit. You know, when Coleman, when I was a kid, man, when I was a kid, man, we had Detroit pride.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's our community.
Right.
We gotta stand up. We gotta stand up. We gotta be involved. We gotta be active. And what you're touching on right now, man, I'm putting it out there first. high bar stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, he's stressing me out.
Yeah, they're good. Get a little bit of dirt on you, right, Mike? Find some things.
Why not?
Gotta look hard.
Get your little Trump
Why
stress
not
going on
mayor?
there.
Why not mayor first?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
you know, if I ran for something, it would be city council.
City council.
If I ever
Yeah.
ran for any public office, it would be city council.
Why?
I think I could do my best work.
You think you do the best work?
No. Best work, I'm a Detroiter all the way. Thanks, man.
Keep up the great work.
Thanks for your phone. Hey, don't forget the 30th Comedy Castle, Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. I'm bringing the co-host to D.L. Hughley's radio show on 105.9 to Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. 9:45 showtime. You got to come out.
I'm coming and I'm bringing my entire staff.
Thank you so much. What's your name?
Yeah.
Shut down.
Oh, that's right. Oh, God, that's right. Thanks,
Oh,
thanks,
this is
Chef.
Don. What's up, man?
Chef Don.
This is Michael Imhotep. What's up, Don? You all right?
Chef Don.
When you run, you need to remember this guy's name.
Right, Chef Don.
You gotta remember.
Oh,
some-
1917
We gotta go out there
Bistro
one day.
on Livernois.
Okay, oh, I know where that is.
Yes,
Sure, yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
place.
Livernois.
Yeah.
Nice place. Good food there. Thanks, Chef, for calling in. Yep, that's right. Thank you so much, brother.
Hey, thank you.
All right, man.
That's about our time. Bro.
Yep.
Thank you so
Hey,
much, Michael.
No problem. Be
Go
sure
ahead.
to listen to the African History Network show every Sunday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on 910 a.m. The Superstation, and visit AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com.
AfricanHistoryNetwork.com.
Correct.
Are you speaking anywhere around town soon?
I do online classes. We have one Friday, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And I think we're starting up a Thursday section, maybe this Thursday also. But visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register there. We have all the information there.
Got you. This is Mike Bonner on 910 AM Superstation. This is Round Midnight. Enjoy Dr. Sabrina, y'all.
All right, guys. Talk to y'all later. Peace.
Thanks, man.